I'm here with Jake Kibbs. He is the partner in Fox Pest Control. He's been in door-to-door since 2001. His best year was over 1,000 pest control counts in a year, so definitely been through the grind. And currently, you spend a ton of time coaching and mentoring and kind of more outside of even Fox Pest Control, it sounds like right now, right?
Yeah. So the goal is just to positively impact as many door-to-door guys as I can. I've just been through a lot of ups and downs, and so the whole goal is just to help them fast track their success. And I mean, I don't believe you need to go out and make all the mistakes that I made for sure. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, is just help people get more of what they want at a faster pace and not have to go through all the pain I went through.
Definitely. So obviously, having a history back to 2001, you've probably had a ton of cool stories and experiences, and I want to dive into a lot of that. But it's really fun. Like, we connected in a cool way because, you know, part of this Can't Knock This and Door-to-Door Con, it just was like, man, we're on the same wavelength. Like, there's more, there's a big need for people to have mentors and coaches and better training and better systems. And I mean, it sounds like we're kind of on the same boat. So I'm excited to kind of get to know you through this podcast and, you know, work together moving forward. So this will be fun.
All right.
So tell us a little bit about your story. Let's kind of rewind to 2001 and you're kind of this, tell us how you kind of got into door-to-door and journey.
So I got home off of an LDS mission. I served in Houston, Texas, and then I got home and I started doing construction with my dad, and it was like January, so it was freezing cold weather in Idaho, and I just kept thinking to myself,
they still build homes and stuff in January, Idaho?
Oh yeah, it's brutal, it's freezing. So I just was putting in these 8-hour days with my dad. I'm like, dude, I hate this. Like, I'm not going to do this for income. So then I started being a waiter and then working for Pepsi. So I had 2 jobs and I was making pretty good money there. And then one of my friends got home from doing pest control, and he'd said he made like $35,000. I'm like, well, what's pest control? So they said pesticides, and I thought, well, do you sell like canisters to people? Like, and then I had this vision in my mind of like airplanes flying over and crop dusting fields.
You're from the potato farms.
So I had no idea what pest control was. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go to a meeting. And it was just door-to-door sales and selling for Orkin Pest Control. It was Eclipse Marketing is the company.
Yeah, we had John Sanders and Jeff Davenport that also were in those Eclipse days.
Eclipse is kind of the godfather. There's so many people that they got their start there, and once I kind of got a clear picture of what it was like, I'm like, you know what, I think I could do this, you know. And I compared myself to my friends. I'm fairly competitive, so I'm like, well, if he can do it, I could do it. So I went home and told my parents the news, and they're like, what? That kind of money in 4 months? That's a scam. There's like, no way that's real. I'm like, well, I'm going to go for it. I don't care. You know, like if it's not what they say it is, I'll come home. But that way I haven't missed out on an opportunity. So, I loaded up in my car, and 2001 went out to New Jersey for my first year of pest control.
That's awesome. Yeah. And never looked back. I mean, that was, what, 20... How many years ago is that? That's a long time.
17 years.
17 years, yeah.
17 years or so.
Man, some of these kids out knocking are probably only 17 years old. They're like, I was born in 2000. I guarantee somebody that listen to this is like, wait a minute, I'm 18.
Yeah, so I start training in an office. I'm like, I could be all your dads.
That's crazy. So you have obviously had a lot of different summers, a lot of different roller coasters. Tell us a little bit about your biggest success. Like, where do you feel like was your pinnacle of your career?
So I feel like one of my best successes came right after one of my worst failures. Like back in 2009, I joined up with a company called Elevate. Probably a lot of people in the industry were familiar with it. It was like a phone, TV, and internet service. And that year we had the pest control company I was working with, Eclipse Marketing. They just, the housing downturn and the financial crunch, the banks were just lending, so it kind of forced them to sell all their assets to pay everybody out, and they just kind of liquidated their brand pretty much. And so we were kind of forced to find a new berth. And a lot of the owners came over to this phone, TV, and internet opportunity. And so I heard some of the money opportunities and just the growth, and so I jumped in feet first, and just went for it. And we recruited probably like 120 people within like 3 to 4 months. So we had a lot of success with it. And halfway through the summer, they ran out of money, and the whole company went under. And I lost a lot of friendships, and it kind of broke my heart. And there's friendships, lost money, just trouble with the wife and stuff. It's just really stressful year.
But it's like crazy though. It's like if you had a nickel for every one of those stories you've heard in the door-to-door space.
Yeah.
It's kind of like...
Yeah, and honestly, like hindsight 2020, it was like a blessing because I met a guy named Mike Romney, and he's a titan in the sales industry. I mean,
is he the owner of Romney Pest Control?
So he started RSI Marketing,
okay.
and he kind of took over the contract that Eclipse Marketing left behind with Orkin. And so he started dominating doing that, and then he and Bryant White got together and formed Fox Pest Control.
Oh, so he owns Fox Pest.
Yeah, so
he's with you.
Yeah,
okay.
so him and Brian are like the sole owners, and then they've partnered up with different branches across the country where some of their top performing reps are able to kind of come in as a part owner and build
that's
it.
Cool.
Yeah, so they've got a phenomenal thing going on there, and Brian and Mike are they're titans. They work hard, they throw up big numbers, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone throw up more pest control than Mike. I think he did like 1327 in 3.5 months.
1327. That's a new number I have yet to hear. So I need to meet this Mike guy. That's awesome.
So I'll try to get you in touch with him. But so anyways, so Mike and I had been friends through the Eclipse days. We'd worked together, and he'd had some really good success early on. So he's kind of a guy that I always try to pick his brain, like, hey, what are you doing? And I try to copycat him, and I found a lot of success in mimicking him. But so the company went under with Elevate, and then I called up Mike, and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of looking for an opportunity. What are you up to? And we ended up meeting, and then at the time I was just completely broke. I was actually almost ready to lose my house. Like I was just so broken-hearted, broken mind, everything. And so I started selling in October, right when we were heading into the winter. But I had to go out and make some money. So I knocked like September, October, November, December, January, February, March.
You did the non-summer sales.
Yeah, I did the non-summer sales.
The opposite of summer sales.
Yeah, so we'd been knocking all summer for Elevate, and then pretty much just picked up a different binder, and then went out for another company.
Wow.
And
that's a grind.
Yeah, and then at the end of that, from March, like I came home for 5 weeks, we had a baby, and then I literally went back out. Wow. So that kind of just caught me up to just breaking even. So I still needed money to survive. So then I went out and did a full summer in 2010, and had a really good year. I think I cranked over like 640 that summer. And that was one of my biggest successes because I had pretty much been knocking almost 14 straight months. Just all through the preseason and the summer, the company went under. Then I had to go out and knock, September, October, all clear through the winter in those cold months, and then have a baby, and then leave my baby home with my wife, and then go out and do like a whole. I think I was out like 4.5 months.
Wow.
So I think that was one of my biggest successes because I was still able to produce at a high level. And I was mentally just spent. Emotionally and mentally spent.
The trauma that comes from losing 120 people, not getting paid right by the company, the bitterness that probably goes through your mind. Like what switched? Like what kind of happened to where you're like, no, I'm not just gonna say screw this, I'm getting out of the door-to-door industry, because I'm sure that was a thought. Like what kind of shifted in your mind? We're shutting the doors, not paying you. To I'm gonna have to go crank out for the next 14, or whatever months. Like what shifted there?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to step up to the plate. You're surprised at what you can do until there's no other choice where you got to just step up and go. And I knew there's great money in door-to-door sales, and because of the training I'd received and the guys that were gracious enough to mentor me and help me out, I knew that there's good money, and if I was just in the right company, the right structure, I knew I could make really good money. And and there's other part where you come home and you're like, dude, I can't go back to work for $15 an hour. No way. Like I don't have any skills. My degree's not finished. Like what am I gonna do? Like work at Maverick? So it's just kind of like I just had to buckle down and just really do my best to just stay focused and kind of keep that.
So tell me a little bit about how your journey to be good, right? Like it wasn't like, did you pick it up really quick? Did you have a couple of hard years and then it clicked? Like what was your first summer like?
Yeah, I think I'll probably start with my first summer. So I had no idea what to expect going up and doing door-to-door sales. I knew I needed a car, so I brought my car out. One of my friends was making the trip to New Jersey with me, and I'm like, dude, get your own car. And he's like, no, you can just share. And I'm like, all right, fine. So we take my car out, but we go to an office where there's really no manager, just reps, and kind of like, here's your binder, there's the doors, go for it. And the problem is most of these reps didn't have a car. So I show up with my car, and then all of a sudden I became a driver.
Yeah, you became my manager day one.
Yeah, so I'm ignorant. I don't even know how this works. People just say, hey, take them to your areas, and I'm like, okay. You know, there was one experienced rep in the office, and he was kind of our, you know, sales leader maybe, but like he really was very inexperienced, you know, didn't really know how to run things. So it just kind of like, we'd show up and, yeah, that's an ant, that's a spider, go for it, you know, kind of thing. So literally I had 4 dudes in my car with me, and I would have to find them area, and I would have to drop them off and pick them up for lunch, drop them off again, pick them up, you know. So I'm getting phone calls like, hey man, it's 8:30, the sun's starting to go down, we done yet, you know? And so I, luckily, leading up to that, my friend Jared Skinner, like he's the one that had a really good summer. He made like $35,000 his first summer. You know, nowadays he would have been the equivalent to a 6-figure summer. Like he did awesome. So I had him, you know, back when 8-track tapes were still going on. I'm like, dude, you got to record your sales pitch for me and like how you do this job. And I must have listened to that tape like 50 times because I'm like, I'm not interested in reinventing the wheel. He's already made success. Like, what did you do? So I'm like, that's what I wanted to do. Just, you know, I memorized his pitch, and I sold 3 my first day, and people were like, what? You know, like, I guess, you know, selling 3 your first day, typically you may get 1 or, you know, bagel until you kind of learn the ropes. So I started selling really good, and then within my first week, I hit 7 in a day.
Wow.
And I was the top first-year rep in the company, and then I was in the top 10 top first-year rep in the company, and I was within the top 10 of the company.
Wow.
But then what happened is I kept getting dragged down by these guys. Like, they hated knocking doors. They were whining, complaining about areas. I had to find stuff. So they started sapping all my time and my energy, and my numbers plummeted. And then I was just like, I finally hit almost the halfway point of the summer. And I'm like, I started off, you know, I drifted off all the top leaderboards and everything, and just was like going like this. And I was like, dude, screw this. I'm like, this is my summer here. I came out here to make money. So I made a very hard choice. And some people might disagree with it, but I looked everyone in the eyes. I'm like, guys, I'm done taking you around. Like, you're going to have to find your own transportation. I just got to go my own direction. So, you know, when push came to shove, they were able to go finance a car. And then they did their thing, you know, movies early, you know, start
didn't
late,
have
finish
you drop
early.
them off at the movie.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, I started hitting 5 to 10 a day the rest of the summer.
There's something to be said on that, because you don't realize how many managers, assistant managers, car group drivers that are so nice that they end up losing thousands of dollars because they put up with everybody's crap. They let it, like, I was the same way. It's like, dude, if you want to go home early, go in a different car group, because I don't go home early.
Yeah.
If you want to get on the doors late, and like, if you're not there for me to like pick you up and take you to your area, I'll leave without you. Walk. I don't care. Like, I was the type. I was just like, that costs me money. And then if you don't text me an exact address and I have to drive around your neighborhood looking to pick you up, text the tech and have them pick you up. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just like,
it's like, what's it worth? Like, this is a huge sacrifice, and those that have done a summer, it's painful. It's long. You have to be disciplined, and it's a huge sacrifice. All the fun and stuff, and you get home and there's like $15,000 that should have been there that's not. I mean, what could that do for you? It could pay for a couple semesters of college. You could flip cars with it. I mean, you could do a ton of things with that cash. And that's what I got the picture in my mind, was like, I cannot keep going down this path. So I was able to make that decision, and then I started selling 5 to 10 a day the rest of the summer. And I ended up climbing back into the top 10 of the first year reps, and top 20 of the company or something like that, and turned it all around and got, you know, some bonuses for making my second half better than my first.
Cool.
But yeah, it was amazing, and I was so grateful I was able to flip the switch and then head and finish on a positive note. But there still was that regret of letting them kind of pull me down and not drawing the line in the sand from the get-go.
Yeah, when it's
because
like,
there could have been another 100 sales or, you know, $15,000 on the table that it was gone, and how expensive was being the nice guy.
And that's just like, how much was that one conversation worth? And there's a balance, right? So let's say you're the manager, right? And it's almost like your duty, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you ran teams. You had 120 recruits that one year, and I'm sure you had every rep in the book, the one that sits home all day and the one that's ready to go at 9 a.m., right? So how if you're managing a team and you're in that situation and you're like, who else am I supposed to have drive them? Who else? Like, what would you do? Like, how do you... Yeah, like if I'm a manager listening to this and they're struggling with that same situation where they're like, I got half my team that brings everybody down and the other half that kind of wants to work, how would you structure that?
Well, there's a two-part game plan. First of all, don't be afraid to shoot a hostage. Send somebody home that's like dead weight, because then everyone will kind of, step up to the game. And then I try to look for like the leaders. Like there's, sometimes there's like little cliques in offices or little pods of guys. And you try to find the person of influencer that could kind of take it, or you rotate the responsibility. But I would always try to like keep tabs on it so that there wasn't a lot of wasted time. Sometimes it's difficult to get that happy medium, but you just try to find the leader that's in the group that can be smart. And then training too, you're just like right after correlation you hit, how to manage your time effectively and just do things smart and fast and communicate with their car groups so they're all on the same page.
Yeah, because the worst thing is right after correlation when everybody goes back to their apartments and they're in their apartments for an hour and a half doing who knows what, and you're like, wait, are you really playing Super Smash Brothers for the last 30 minutes in your apartment? We're supposed to be in our cars. Let's go. Like, yeah. And then you have, so it's important to set up a system. Like, correlation, time management. We're here. We meet here. We do it at this time. Yeah. Like, and how much more effective is that for your whole team? I mean, that piece, but then the piece that you said first, don't be afraid to shoot a hostage.
Yeah.
Every manager's weakness is they're so nice. They don't want to send people home. They feel like, maybe if I send them home, their mom's gonna call me or something. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But it's like you're doing them a service because in the back of their mind, they're so scared to like say, "I want to go home. I'm not liking this. I don't make money."
Yeah.
Like,
well, there's so many consequences. Like the first thing is like what's the financial loss of yourself? And then the teammates that they pull down, what's their financial loss? And then that person, it's there's two forms of quitting. You can just quit and go home, or you can just coast, right? And if they're the coasters, you gotta put that on the chopping block, because you're responsible not only for your summer, but then also the rest of the team. And anyone that's managed a team a couple of years can see that like one bad apple can really take the life out of the party. I mean, I had one year, that there's one guy that would come into the office and he would just, everyone hated
the energy
him.
Sucker.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like an invisible vacuum. He just sucked the life out of the room, and he just like, and one of my regrets was keeping him on, because of what it took from everybody else. So you just kind of, you just have to kind of live a little bit of a higher log. You have to respect the opportunity from everyone else, and you have to kind of mentor them through it, like, hey, you got to step up your attitude, and here's the consequences of being negative and stuff like that. But then if they won't step up, then you have to be brave enough to let them go, because the losses are so much greater from keeping on the wrong person. So
yeah, no, that's a huge principle. And so kind of moving directions. So you obviously have learned a lot. You have a lot of good nuggets. I'm excited. We're about to get into one of your principle-based trainings that you like to give in a second. But like, what did you like to read? What did you like to study? Like, obviously you had a couple good mentors like this Romney guy and Mike and whatnot. But like, what other things have you found really helpful that you've gone to as far as, like books or podcasts or audio, or what taught you?
Yeah, so probably the one program or book that really sticks out to me that I love is like one of Brian Tracy's programs. It's called Ultimate Goals, and that applies to so many different things. But it can you can just overlap it over like the door-to-door program, and there's just so much like mentally and psychologically that happens with that program and writing down your goals and setting deadlines. I feel like that if I could just reference somebody to one thing, I feel like that would do the most good for them, would probably be that program. Because that provoked me to do a lot of different things in my door-to-door management, as far as like time and tracking things that really helped me gain another step. And so that's one of like most influential books I feel that I would promote to someone first.
I haven't read that one.
Yeah,
I love Brian Tracy. But That's good.
Yeah,
That's
he's got some good stuff. But that Ultimate Goals program I love it.
So is it like a program or is it like a book?
So yeah, it's like a book, and then I like to get my books on audio so I can just listen to them, because like I listened to one thing from Zig Ziglar once. He says if you listen to something like 16 times, then you kind of like finally own the information. So I just really bought onto that. So I just like, I'll put a CD in the car and I'll just let that sucker play and just over and over.
I do the same thing. It's actually the Moana CD. So it's literally odd thing. I know. It's like my daughter, play Moana again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've heard this song 7,000 times. So if you ever want to belt out some
I put in my own lyrics like, I wish I could be a better father, but I can't stop beating my daughter. And my 5-year-old just starts laughing her butt off. She's like, that's not how it goes, Daddy.
That's so funny. But, so I've applied that principle as well. So
so I just listen to him over and over, because then I start to like own it, and then it's kind of crazy. It's then I'm speaking Brian Tracy.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about this program that you came up with. It's called 8 to Great.
8 to Great.
8 to Great. Cool. So tell me first off, how did this 8 to Great come about, and then we'll kind of go into what it means.
Yeah, so like a few years ago, I just really wanted to get into the coaching and the mentoring of door-to-door sales reps, and so the way this talk came to life is I just started to like go through, a summer and a day, and just like, what do the top performers do, or what has made me super successful, and I just started to get down to like the core of like what really matters in door-to-door sales, because there's like good closes and tricks and techniques, but I believe there's so much more to just like a solid foundation, a psychology of how you approach this, and so. So I just try to go through like what matters, and I came up with these 8 points, and then there's kind of habits or sub points that support the main point. So this talk was just kind of, I wanted people to get introduced to me. I wanted to get to know me and see like, I've been in door-to-door sales quite a few years. I'd like to see if I can help you. So this talk is pretty much free. I don't charge anyone for it, and just see if this can help you get the next level. So one of the techniques that I teach in it tripled my income back in 2004. And so that's just one of the principles. And so I'm like, I feel like this is some of the best stuff that I've ever learned over,
17 years.
Yeah, I've knocked close to 20,000 doors. I think I calculated it one day. I think I've spent over like 7,500 hours like face to face with qualified buyers, So I'm just like, and I've been mentored by a lot of good guys, like titans, so I've developed my own strategies that have proven really effective, but I've also had guys help me get in the next step, like guys like Mike Romney. So, I'm so grateful for those guys too. And I always tell people, I'm like, go to the winners. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just go to the winners, and what color underwear they wear. When do they go to bed?
Exactly
what kind of cereal? Is it Captain Crunch? And just copy those guys, and then just leave the last 20% for yourself. Put your own spin on it and what you're comfortable with. And that's kind of what inspired this talk. Is I really just wanted to help people avoid a lot of the pains and mistakes that I had. And the biggest thing, and I'm sure you can relate to this with door-to-door sales, is like regret.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy for me to go back to a year and be like, man, I hate that year. I wasn't focused. I was looking in 2 different places. I didn't give it everything I had.
The
right to it, and it's just like,
the worst.
Takes me off.
The worst thing, the thing I hate to hear the most from some rep is, well, if I would have done this, I would have been a 200 account rep, or I would have sold 300. If I would have actually worked really hard, and it's like, why didn't you do that? And it's just like the if I would have, or if I could, and the problem is like you look at this is something probably people need to hear is 17 years in the industry. Now, how old are your kids?
I got a 7-year-old,
5-year-old. It's probably not as easy to go out and crank like you were 10 years ago.
No,
fair?
No. Yeah,
so
that's fair to say.
You almost look at it like you're an athlete, and you have your peaks and your primes, and it's like, man, had I known the stuff I know now back in my prime, what would have my prime really been?
Yep.
And people need to understand, there's a cycle of a door-to-door sales guy. It's not like it's not like you're getting out of it. It's just like there's a peak where it's like lifestyle hits you different, you have different needs, different wants, things like that, and that happens. And so I think too many people don't take their prime or whatever is prime. Every prime's relative, right? You could be 40 and in your prime, but what I'm saying is we need to all recognize like every day matters.
Yeah, like capitalize on it.
And every summer it's like I'm just gonna like write this summer off. Well, it's like, well, freak, don't do that. Like, there's only so many of these you'll do. Like, so. Kind of before we get into this, it kind of brings me to a topic that we were talking about pre all this, which was one of the big regrets was probably more money management that you kind of brought up earlier. And kind of go into that. Like, why money management? Why has that been a regret?
Yeah, so I'm okay with opening the curtains on my financial life and being a little bit vulnerable right now. But I didn't even know what credit was really until I got home off a mission. Like I just didn't know how to manage or save money, and it just kind of transferred in, because those kind of the roots, And when your roots grow deep, it takes a lot to change it. But one of my biggest regrets is like I wish I would have been better with all the money that I'd made. And so now I teach people and I coach them. I'm like, dude, pay yourself first and be wise with your money, because you might have a couple 2-3 good years, but then who knows, you might get injured, you might get married and then go to a different career, just change, things might change on you in a second. And that's... Because
the problem and the mindset that a lot of people get into is, oh, I made $100,000 this summer, I'll always make $100,000 no matter what now.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, no, that's not necessary. You have to duplicate and repeat, right. And life happens. So
yeah, and sometimes you can do that for 3, 4, 5 years, even sometimes even longer. But the bottom line is one thing I noticed is that my spending habits didn't change as much, but just with inflation and things like that, same 6 figures just wouldn't go as far, and then the next year it would go even less, and so there's things, the cost of living and things go up, and then you start adding children to the family and stuff like that. And so I just there's a couple of books I push on people, there's a couple marriage books if my friends are getting married, because it helps them deal with finances.
Hey, I need that. What's your go-to marriage book?
It's called For All Eternity. It's an LDS program, but it helps teach them.
I think I have that on audio, dude. My mom gave me that right when I got married.
Me and my wife sometimes will just put it in on a Sunday as we're making dinner or something. I'm like, see that what he said, babe? See what he said?
And then you're doing the opposite of what they're telling you to do on the tape. Yeah. Don't do. See what they said.
Yeah. So and then Dave Ramsey, it was crazy. One of my friends, he was kind of living the type of lifestyle I was, we're just spending a lot, getting a lot of debt, big truck, snow machines, motorbikes. And I gave him this book and I preached at him for about an hour, and he changed his whole life. And he and his wife made one car work, and then he started a trucking business, and he's doing extremely well. Now he's building houses, selling them for $400,000 or $500,000. He's got literally thousands of dollars a day coming in from his trucking company, and he's just having a lot of fun. He's golfing with his kid, and he changed everything right when his trucking company peaked. And I'm just so proud of him because he listened. There's so many people I'm like, dude, learn from my pains, learn from my mistakes, please, and don't duplicate them. And he was one that flipped the switch, changed everything, his whole lifestyle, and now he's very charitable. I mean, he helps a lot of people out. One family, he just bought him a brand new Honda Pilot. It was $30-40 grand, right? So he can afford to be nice, and he can afford to golf with his kid and support his kid's golf dreams. And now he can build and flip houses, and he still has his trucking company running, and he's still very good with his money management. And now he has other things he can invest in, and the freedom and the happiness he has. I'm so proud of him, and he's a grinder too, But then you can be a grinder and still be broke at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you see that way more commonly than not in this door-to-door industry, because you get young guys that are 21, 22, going to make more money than they know what to do with, and they're like, I'm going to go buy a Razor, I'm going to go buy a boat, I'm going to go buy a BMW.
Yeah.
I had a situation in one of my offices where the guy goes and buys a BMW cash, and then 3 months later he calls me and he's like, hey man, can I get a loan? I'm like, what do you mean? You just bought a Beamer. You're a Beamer with needing a loan. What are you doing? And I think the stigma of, oh, I'm a sales guy, I did so well, I want to show it off, actually kills people long term. When in reality, that 30 extra grand on not a so nice car, you could have put in in a real estate investment or, somewhere smart, and that would be nice to have 5 years down the road.
Yeah, and I think it's headed that direction, and I hope that the door-to-door leaders will encourage their newcomers, their up-and-up-comers in that direction. Because, there's, certain times where, you're coached to, in my career, I've been coached to spend.
Oh, no.
Because it becomes
a lot
a
of
golden
leaders,
a lot of leaders
teach that.
I'll see you next year, bro. You just bought a house and a truck. See you next year,
It's crazy, though.
And,
there are a lot of leaders that tell people, buy really nice things so you're broke next year and you have to come back. They don't tell you that piece, but the reality is it's like, I never bought into that. And that's one of the things I'm most grateful for. I still drive a Kia Optima. It's 2011. It's a hybrid.
Yeah.
I rented out my basement. I was the type that it was like, no, I'm going to go get another rental property and another rental property. And nobody else was doing that. And everybody's like, well, that's boring. But now I look at it and I'm like, I can live off my rental income.
Yeah.
And that's the opportunity that people don't realize that summer sales is you can make so much money so fast. You can do a lot of good with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just that freedom of doing things smart. It just takes a tiny little bit in your lifestyle change, a little bit of discipline. But if you have the right mindset, it'll be fun for you, to make those sacrifices and to discipline yourself. You'll feel more empowered by setting aside. And so I tell everyone, whatever you can afford, if it's nothing less than 10%, but as high as 25, even 50% of your door-to-door income, just set that aside for the right investment. I mean, I have one friend that flips cars lights out. He just finds deals left and right, and he flips those suckers.
That's awesome.
I mean, he flipped 20-something cars in a year, and literally him and his wife were driving approximately $30,000 to $40,000 cars cash paid for.
That's
and
awesome.
All from just flipping cars. But if you don't have that principle, how can you
do it?
Yeah, and so you can have so much more joy and fun, and then what if that person comes the right charitable opportunity where the family needs it and it's sincere, and your hands are tied because you're broke, Yeah. And I've had that experience where I had the right opportunity where I could really change the tide for a family, and I was broke and I couldn't do it. And I tell you what, it sucks. It sucks having that in your heart to help them, know you could make a difference, and you were the one that probably would say yes when so many would say no, but now you can't because you didn't, you weren't smart with your money. So I try to spend a lot of time with guys just saying, hey, just set up these habits now. They will bless you. And it's cool to have the stories coming back to me. One guy's like, yeah, I've got $80,000 in the bank, and I'm investing in this and looking at a duplex here, and my wife needed a car. It was nice to be able to just pay cash for it and find the right deal. Because when you have cash, you get smoking deals on stuff. But when you finance crap, you always get robbed, and then you end up selling it for a loss later. It's just a painful 5 years or 3 or 4. Yeah, so having these stories come back is just so fun.
That's so
because
cool.
I wish I would have had someone walking me through some of those years where I was just crushing it, and here's something you can invest in smart here, and
cool.
I had to learn a lot of lessons the hard way. So.
Words from the wise. Words from the wise.
Yeah.
So let's kind of shift gears back into your 8 to great, and we'll dive into kind of what that is.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of list them off, and then feel free to ask questions. So the first thing that I feel is important before you even begin is having that most important purpose. Why are you doing it? So everyone, it's what's your why, or what's your goal? And the thing that I've learned is that if you make decisions based on money, it's not going to be strong enough. I've had a few years where I totally was like, oh, that kind of money, yeah! And I make a huge shift in my career based on money. And I tell you what, the motive, it wasn't enough to make me give it everything I had.
And you know what? Something that's interesting that came to my mind, you saying that, is, how many guys jump to different companies due to this company pays $300 versus this one pays $270,
mm-hmm.
and it's money is the motivator strictly, and it's
Yep.
kind of well, if you don't have a bigger why, it's not never gonna make more by doing that.
It's you have to. There has to be something more than money, because it's just you do your research, look at a lot of examples, and it never was strong enough. It fizzles, and so I'll just give you an example of one of my purposes that made me overcome crazy obstacles. In 2004, I wanted to be a supercross racer, and so I'm like, okay, I know if I get this type of truck and this type of bike. I've made connections in the racing world, so now I've got pros that are actually sat next to Ricky Carmichael and Jeremy McGrath, you know. I'm like,
That's
these
for
guys
all
are like
money,
going to
man.
train me. Oh yeah, dude, I blew a lot.
I was gonna
50
say, I was like-
grand. That was one of my bad investment years because I freaking shattered my leg on a
Oh.
supercross track. That's another story. But so I wanted it so bad. I love racing, dude. I wanted a motorbike since I was tiny, and we just were broke my whole life, and I had to go like move pipe all summer to buy my first bike, which my friend broke within the first 2 weeks. So, but dude, I love racing. So I knew based on how I'd ridden tracks and exposure to pros and having them train me, I mean, within a month, I could almost run the same pace as pros that had literally raced next to Ricky Carmichael before. And I was like, holy cow, you know, like, I'm just a few seconds off of this guy's lap times, and he qualified for a main event that Ricky Carmichael was in. I'm like, oh, you know, like, so I still was a long ways off, but I'm like, I know I can get there if I can just get some financing or get some cash so that I have the time to invest in racing.
Yeah.
So my purpose, that most important purpose, was get the cash so you can focus 100% on racing to like take your racing career.
Which is
to
a
the
big
next step.
purpose.
Yeah, and the thing about it was I wanted it so bad, dude. I'd tear up, man. I'd start crying a little bit because I'm like, I don't know if you've ever felt that before, where you just you want something so bad, it just comes from the basement in your gut, and you just obstacles, you just freaking, you know, like you're running through a football line, you just freaking swipe them to the side.
Yeah.
And that year I had so many problems, but it was crazy. It was one of the best years of my career. I think I hit almost like 672 sales that year, and it was because I wanted it so bad. But I mean, I had family stuff going on. I had friendship, like one of my best friends kind of betrayed me, and like it really hurt me, you know. And there's just a lot of stuff that I had allergies. A cop pulled me over and thought I was on drugs and put me in jail, but I had really bad allergies.
Gotta love those.
Oh yeah, so you know, just crazy stuff, and yeah, I just kept going like this because I wanted that racing career so bad, and it was amazing what I was able to accomplish. Now here's what happened next year. I made a choice based on money, switched companies because of the allurement of all that cash that I could make, and then the passion went with, you know, where I left. And so the passion was gone. I made a choice based on money, and I was out there knocking doors, and I'm like 3 weeks into it, I'm like, dude, where's that eye of the tiger? I mean, and that's another thing. Kansas City, I listened to like Rocky all summer. I had that Rocky soundtrack, and they're just like, Eye of the Tiger playing. But yeah, in 2005 it was just gone, and I just kind of, I mean, I had a decent year. I still made good money, but the passion was not there.
That's interesting.
So I that first principle, I just like take the time to get a purpose. Take it, you know, just reevaluate what do you want in life? What goals are you trying to accomplish? And usually money is always, it's not the motivator, but it's the connector to the, you know, the passion or the dream, whether it's to build houses or finance your racing career.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's kind of what I teach people. You have to love it. You have to fall in love with the result. You have to imagine, okay, what the end game is. You close your eyes and you see it, and you're like, oh, I love it, baby. And you got to have that feeling. So then now you know, okay, I'm gonna do a good job this summer because the purpose is there.
Yeah.
And so whatever time it takes to invest in it, you need to take it so that you're strong enough. Because every summer, I'm sure you've seen a million different problems. People breaking legs, wrecking cars. You know, getting bit by ticks and getting Lyme disease, you know, like, I mean, getting held up in a gang, like, by
pregnant
a gang.
or what, I mean, I see it all,
like,
man.
so, yeah, you're going to get problems no matter what. Opportunity mixed with difficulties, so if your purpose is strong enough, you've invested the time, you're going to be able to swipe them away and still get to the goal. So that's the first principle.
Cool.
So number 2 is now you got to create a plan. So you know, there's that word reverse engineering. You have to kind of go to the result and then come backwards.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's my result. What kind of money is that going to take? You know, how many sales does that equal? How many do I got to produce for the summer, the month, the week, the day? So you kind of reverse engineer. I call it the recipe. So you just find out how many sales are needed, because your mind loves benchmarks and deadlines. It's a psychological thing that gives you power when you know exactly what you have to do. So I teach people to kind of reverse engineer from the result they want. Now you know the activities, you kind of bake the recipe. And so that's the second thing, is the plan. How am I going to get there? Because if you're blindfolded and you walk into a city and you're trying to find a place, how are you ever going to find that place?
Yeah.
So mapping it out and having that plan is absolutely essential, because now you know exactly what needs to happen, and that's still your choice whether you do it or not, but at least you know the path to get there.
Cool.
The third thing is, now it's time to burn the bridge. Now you got to commit. Now, you've achieved a crazy amount of success in door to door. Would you sell in security like 400?
Yeah, 403 was my best year, and
that's absolutely amazing to because like when I was doing managing for Apex, I think I hit 200 one summer while I was managing a team, and so you doubled my numbers. That like blows my mind.
It's wild. There's guys doing way better than me. So.
Dude, it's unbelievable. So if you okay, so what I was going with the commitment, you have to like burn that bridge. You have to be like whole heart devotion and focused on just that one thing. If you've heard in the scriptures and stuff like that, serve two masters and you'll love the one and hate the other. And that's kind of the thing is with door-to-door sales. You have to clear the slate, and you have to be single-mindedness on what you want to achieve. So if you do that, then you're going to have a great summer. But if you're chasing 2 or 3 different things, then you're going to be mediocre at best, and you're going to have regret at the end.
Yeah, I just had a rep I just talked to, and and he hasn't had a great year. He's only done a few accounts here and there. And I was like, dude, you can't honestly look at me and say you put all of your heart into this and like have burnt the bridge, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, to be honest, I actually had this little side business on Amazon that I've been putting time into. And I'm like, okay, how's that going? He's like, it's going okay. Like, you realize if you would have just picked that one or this one, you probably would have made more money. Mm-hmm. And just focus, man. Like, burn the bridge and either be here or be there, and let's go.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge principle. A lot of people never fully grasp, especially if they're only going to go a 4-month sprint. It's like, take everything out of sight and just do a 4-month sprint.
Yeah. And that's the thing is we have to teach and explain to them. You don't realize the confidence, the empowerment, the swagger that you'll have after the summer's over. You can go toe to toe with anything after a successful, focused summer where you did it the right way, gave everything you had. Any other problems out here, you get home and start up a normal career, you go toe to toe with it, and you're like, I can win. 100%. And that's what I wish for people is like, I don't want you to come home and regret, because now you have 8 months of regret before you can redeem yourself. Before you can even start to redeem yourself. Yeah. You have 8 months to just stew over it. And like me, like I look back at 2005 and I'm like, yep, I can go right to it. Boom, that's a summer I regret. I didn't give it everything I had. I made a decision based on money over like what my purpose was. And it's very quick to go to the pains my career. But then it's also easy to go to those like 2004 where it was like one of the best summers of my life, and I even just thinking about it now, it empowers me, and I'm just like, yeah, dude, that was an awesome summer.
Cool.
So that commitment, you can't get that feeling without the commitment, and you have to be whole heart devotion to one thing, and you committed to that result. So now you have the purpose, you have the plan to get there. Now you've committed and burned the bridge. Now it comes time, principle 4, execute. So in the execution, you have to be focused. There's this analogy where, you have a laser beam and it's focused, condensed light. You can cut through lead, right? But what happens if you shine a light bulb on a block of lead? Nothing. So that kind of comes back to the serving two masters. If you're just focused and you execute, and just start getting that plan done, So now you know what you want, just get busy paying the price. But there's this guy like H.L. Hunt. When he died, he owned over 200 companies. Wow. So his royalties off those companies was like $3 million a day. One of the richest guys in the world. And he was asked, like, what would you tell someone to be successful? After all the success, all the money you earned, what would you tell him? He says, decide exactly what you want, and decide on the price that needs to be paid, and then get busy paying that price. And out of all the things he could have taught someone, his whole big career and all the money he's made, he says he would have taught him those 3 things. And so that's what I teach people. In the execution, you need to track everything. And so that's the one thing I feel like tripled my income back in 2004 was I knew all the activities that I was doing and how much they were worth. And so that comes with the execution, is just knowing exactly what to do, what the activities are worth, and that's what a top performer does. He's structured and disciplined. He knows what he's doing from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to bed.
Yeah. No, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so the fifth principle I teach is form positive habits. So if you analyze any top performer, they've got those habits that support the purpose. A few of the things that I notice about top performers is they're always the first ones there, the last to leave. I mean, if you could cultivate that into your arsenal, you'll always have a job. Someone that goes that extra mile, you're always going to have a job. So another, like, with positive habits is like there's like rules that govern their day pretty much. So again, they're single-minded. Everything that they do supports the purpose. So from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed.
So when you're saying rules that govern their day, do you mean like the habit dictates what you're doing, not you dictate what you're doing, really?
Yeah. So for instance, a small thing like gassing up the car at night. So you're going to need gas for the next day's work, and you're coming home. Do you go right home and just say, "Oh, I'll fill up tomorrow," or you just hurry and pull, gas up, save yourself that time? So right after a correlation or just the time a guy leaves his apartment to go to the doors, the quick, the shortest amount of time possible is when you want to be knocking that first door. When you leave your door from a correlation or from your apartment, if you don't go to correlations, the faster you get to that first door, the better. So there's just all these time wasters that they've just refined their day to where the gas gets done at night when it doesn't matter. So there's just they save the day for just selling for that one purpose. But yeah, like waking up and getting 8 hours of rest, flood their system with endorphins by doing a little bit of workout. I mean, in 5 to 7 minutes, I was able to do like 100 push-ups and 80 sit-ups a day, hurry and throw around some dumbbells, do some air squats. I lost 20 pounds that summer. I came home just shredded, and my wife couldn't keep her hands off me. No, I'm just kidding. So I lost 20 pounds, and like my diet was dialed in, and I kept, I made all my meals for the day. So anytime I was hungry, I came right back to the, my car, and my meal was already prepared for me. Yeah. And so that's something that top performers do, is they know every minute of the day what's supposed to be happening, and they've got A, B, and C plans for random stuff that happens to them or whatever. Like if an area is not that good or they need to bounce areas, that kind of thing. So those positive habits, those rules that govern their day, they're so important. And then another positive habit, I'll just throw it in there, that I noticed about a lot of top guys is they're grateful. Being grateful has pulled me out of so many funks through my door-to-door career. It's like whenever I'm feeling like crap, it's usually because I'm being selfish. I'm thinking only about myself. But it's like when I just, on my street sheet, I actually have a column that all throughout the day, I leave it open so I can write my gratitudes.
Oh, that's cool.
So, I'm thankful for my wife supporting me. I have a home. I have the talent to sell. This is a great opportunity. I mean, where can you go and make like 5-6 times the average guy's income just by changing the job that you're doing? So I'm like, holy cow, I am blessed. Like what I'm kind of in a funk about right now is tiny after I list my blessings. And so that's one of the thing I notice about high performers is they're grateful. And when you're feeling in a funk, dude, the quickest way to get out is just start listing all your blessings and what you're grateful for. And then you'll start to realize, dude, I'm doing pretty good, man.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah, so the next thing is one of the biggest things that served me in my career is number 6, stay consistent. I would rather have consistency over talent any day. Because, man alive, there's so many reps out there that are so much better than me. Like, I think back to 2004, there's these 2 girls down in Florida. Dude, they could throw up like 10 to 15 pest control accounts a day. And I was just like, man, like I'm grinding and I'm getting like, 6. And then they're just hitting 10s and 15s and just like really gapping me. But what I did is I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to focus on my own goals, and I'm just going to stay consistent. And I'll bet you anything, I'll run them down. I'll bet you they'll fizzle. And sure enough, we hit halfway through the summer, they started to taper off. And by the time we hit August, I caught them both, and then I gapped them through the month of August. Yeah. And it was such a testimony builder of me of just like, look, you don't have to be the best. You just have to be able to work a really good schedule and do it consistently, and that's what's gonna make the difference. And so that's another thing is like, those good choices you make and the bad choices during the summer, they all add up, and they either promote you or expose you, and there's no way of getting around it. You'll either be like top rep or even if you sold 200 accounts, you'll be there with no regrets, nothing to be exposed on. Hey man, I gave it hell. I gave it everything I had. Or you'll be exposed. Well, and then someone's exposing themselves when they start talking about excuses why they didn't do as good as they thought they could, and they come up with all these elaborate things. But the reality is we're 100% responsible for the outcome, no matter what. It doesn't matter, manager or anything. You have access to enough tools around you to get the result you're after. And so stay consistent is probably one of the biggest things I think
huge.
That separates
Steady Eddie.
Yep, steady Eddie.
Always love the steady Eddie. You can count on that guy doing a couple accounts every day. You can just count on it.
Yep.
That guy makes more money than the guy that had like a week of zeros and then another week of like 20. And you're like, what do you do? Like, how do you manage that? And even think of the mental stress of inconsistency. Like, that's another piece. Like, I get a lot of calls from reps that will ask me, like, how do you deal with, like, the ups and downs of sales? And I was like, I don't really have ups and downs. I just try to stay really consistent. I'll have good days. I'll have bad or, like, worse days. But it's like, I know, like, if I do X, Y, Z, I'll get deals. And I don't have, I try to avoid the whole stress of the roller coaster of sales just by focusing on step 6, which is consistency.
Yeah, and that roller coaster comes from a bad plan for the day. It's like, they'll go and hang out for an hour at McDonald's with everyone in the air conditioning rather than packing lunch, getting lunch for 15 minutes and then getting back out on the doors. Typically when they change up their schedule, then they'll get the lopsided results, and then that's what really starts to mess with your head. But that consistency is really what promotes someone. But one of the things I love to do is I love to study champions, and a lot of champions that I review their careers, like Ricky Carmichael's one, Ryan Dungey's like a professional motocross racer as well. And the thing about Ryan Dungey is his consistency has got him a ton of championships, and then now he's going to be labeled one of the greatest that have ever raced a motorbike. But during some of the seasons, he'll get an occasional win. But if you look at his worst finishes, there's times when 2 or 3 years goes by and he's never finished outside the top 4. But other guys will come in and they'll have more speed. They'll kick his butt a few races in a row, just smoke him. But he doesn't let it get to his head. He just does his program.
It's like Phil Mickelson in golf. It's kind of like he just always kept in the top whatevers, You're always going to see him.
Yeah, so then they dive down and have a top 10 finish or an 18th or something, and they do the ups and downs, but he's just steady, and then he's the one walking away with the $2-3 million bonus for winning the championship.
That's cool.
So I love studying champions, and that's a common trait because they all are just they know where they're headed, and they get a good structured routine in, and then they just do that sucker. And we only got to do it for 4 months, It's not a year.
Yeah, some year round, some 4 months.
Yeah, some year.
I'm the year round man.
Seller gets
for sure
the GM manager programs. Yeah. But so leads us into principle number 7, which is get better. Never be complacent. Things are always changing and evolving. There's new technologies, there's new strategies, but and then there's also just other reps with new approaches or different types of techniques. So I always imagine I have a tool belt around my waist with sales techniques and strategies. So I never try, like Brian Tracy says, I never judge where I get the next technique, because he says just one new technique can double your income. And for me, with the whole tracking strategy, that tripled my income. That was just one thing, and I got it off of a network marketing CD. And I was like, heck yeah! So it was just like magic for me. But with getting better, I teach people to listen to the audios in your car. Don't listen to crap music or crap radio. That audio is just going to change you as a person. Read in the morning. Just do things each day and then petition the top reps. What are they doing, and go model them. So just constantly be getting better. Yeah. And don't judge where you're going to get the next technique from, because you might know it all, but then some first year rep just does something different. I love it, man. I just learned that you ride a scooter around. And I've thought about that before. I'm like, I could get the doors faster. But I'm like, no.
Hey, Sterling Clark, you asked me this question. Does it really make it better? I'm like, yes. I still have 2 of them in my trunk. A backup, or if I'm training a rep, I'm like, I'm not walking, dude.
Yeah, hop on
the training wheels.
We turn and burn in this
and if you think you'll look funny in the neighborhood, then go knock with someone else.
Yeah, and that just comes from, that gets you more time on the doors. That puts you in front of more qualified buyers, and it's maybe maybe you get 2 more sales pitches that day, but over the course of a summer, that's 200 more pitches, and that could be, 30, 40, 50 sales.
100%.
And on your pay scale, $1,000 a deal or something like that,
it's a lot.
It's huge. So, so getting better, just keep refining the system, and then the biggest thing is just go to the guys that are getting the results you want. You don't have to go and reinvent things. You can just... One thing I've noticed about high performers is they're all the same.
Oh, we said the same lines. We call them one-liners. I have a bag of one-liners I just pull out.
Yeah, and then they're also very giving. They all give... There's just something so fulfilling about lending a strategy that can change someone's career and help them, and it's just so fulfilling. And all the high performers do it. Like, they'll take time, 10 minutes, to just download some techniques and strategies to help you get more what you want. And there's nothing attached to it. I've seen it over and over again where guys just give. And the best thing you can do to that top performer is go execute and then give him a story back.
Yeah, for sure.
So always get better. And then the last thing is the extra mile. Paul Abdul said there's no traffic beyond the extra mile. And so I grew up watching Paul Abdul.
Love it.
I didn't get the Metallica. My dad liked putting like Paul Abdul, Tiffany, New Kids on the Block, when I was growing up. So like I get to school and like I'll hear a song.
I could tell. I could definitely tell.
Oh gosh, I'm like listening to crazy songs on the radio. I'll be like jamming. My friends like, dude, what are you doing?
That's awesome.
And then like the first time I heard Metallica, I'm like, what is this stuff? This is amazing. Where has this been my whole life? Oh yeah, man. So, but anyways, so if you always want to have like an opportunity, just do a little bit more. Start a little earlier. Finish a little later. If you go the extra mile, you're always going to have people pursuing you to come to their company or to promote you to something. So one thing I really like about Larry Bird, I learned about his career, is at a very young age, he was out before school would start, and he would shoot 500 free throws every day before school would start. And then when you look at him in the NBA, that just kind of traveled up to his professional career. The most amazing thing about him is like when you watch Larry Bird play, I don't want to diss on him, but he's just not that athletically gifted. It's not like music. It's not music when he moves, but man, the guy puts the ball in the bucket. And he's one of the greatest of all time, and it's because, he's got a great shot, and he's just been through the movement so many times. Like when it comes to scoring, Larry gets the job done, I love that an average guy with a good work ethic and practice going the extra mile did amazing things and now considered one of the greatest of all time. So it's like anyone can do that now. It's just you have to make choices to go above and beyond. So if you're just doing what it takes to get by, you're never going to perform never going to be a top rep. Top reps are always doing extra things. They're constantly refining their craft, starting earlier, riding scooters to get to more doors, and not going home without that last sale. So that last 30 minutes could get you one more deal. If you do that every day for the summer, that's 100 deals. Or let's just say every other day you crack one loose. That's 50. So you separated yourself at least 50 right there from another high performer just because you stayed until you got that extra deal. So
huge.
So those are the 8 principles. I mean, there's a lot more detail within them, but I feel like that's like the bedrock. Like if you just have these 8 principles, you can pretty much take it to anything. And go be awesome at golf or motocross or door-to-door selling. It's a great foundation to build from.
For sure.
Because everything else is just, what do you call it, commentary, like learning the sales pitch or the product you're selling. There's just, little closing techniques, stuff like that. Like that can be learned fairly quickly, but if you have the wrong psychology, the wrong approach to doing the job, then it'll eat you up.
Yeah.
So,
cool. All right, so now we got to kind of wrap this up, dude. Honestly, those eight to great. That's like a really cool, and I'm excited for the future of the workshops coming out and some diving deeper into that. Yeah, it'll be kind of fun to work together, and obviously door-to-door con, kind of your participation, that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
And to kind of wrap this all full circle, I just want to ask like one last question. Usually going to lightning round, but just for time's sake.
Yeah.
What has been the craziest thing that's happened to you on the doors?
Man, there's so many to choose from. I've been chased by dogs, had guns pulled on me, but probably one is I ate some bad food, and like I was in the middle of my neighborhood and just kind of hit my gut where I had to go find a restroom real quick. So I start, inching back to my car. I'm like, oh, dude, it's like a mile away. I'm like, please, Heavenly Father, help me make it. I'm like, please. So I'm like walking really fast, and then I'm like, I just kind of come to that realization, dude, I'm not going to make it. So I'm like, luckily there's like a bunch of trees in the middle of the neighborhood. It's kind of like a little forest. So I dive into the forest, like I'm like walking to the fringe of the woods, right? And I'm almost in the woods, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. So I'm like, I'm not going in my britches, man. I'm on roll today. I've got 4 or 5 cells. Like it was like 3 o'clock, and I already had 4 or 5 cells. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna do 8 or 9 today. There's no way I'm crapping my pants. So I just like dropped the drawers, and I just like just kind of doing my business, visiting Mother Nature, and I kid you not, probably like within 15 seconds. I like look up, and this family's driving by, and I'm like kind of crouched down, and they like look at me, and we like have eye contact, and I'm like, and they're just like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, no. And so
you're like, do I move
I
area?
was so embarrassed.
Did you ever knock on that family's door? Like,
no, I didn't see him again. But I finished things, and I went back and sold 4 more. So I finished the day with.
Dude, hey, no, I appreciate honestly everything you've taught us, shown us. It's been honestly just awesome. So yeah, thank you for all you've shared.
Yeah, pleasure. Hopefully, something I said will help someone get the next step and just get.